If you hate your marriage, a lot of people say these days, just give it up. Or not. A growing number of unhappily married couples are splitting up, but they're not going so far as getting divorced. Today's tough economy is part of that equation, but the people who do it say they actually have lots of other reasons too. Jane Anthony is part of an emerging trend. Married couples, not exactly married.
We've been separated for at least 10 years now.
But not yet divorced. Call it marital limbo.
They are emotionally divorced. They're not legally divorced. But the emotional divorce can happen years before they even talk about divorce.
That's what happened to Jane and her husband.
We were married for 14 years, and I would say the last 5 or 6 years of that marriage was when discontentment started to set in.
That was over 10 years ago, and even though he moved out, they never signed the papers.
I kept thinking about my children. You know, if we separate, if we divorce, what's that going to do to them?
At the time, Emma was 11 and Nathan 7.
If they had taken care of everything right away, as soon as they decided to be separated, there definitely would have been a lot of tension.
We didn't consult lawyers. We didn't get a custody arrangement. We were just truly winging it.
That probably helped keep things as normal as possible.
The new normal saw the undivorced parents together at family gatherings, sometimes with their significant others.
Do what you can to be friendly for your kids.
Experts say for every undivorced couple that are happily separated, many more remain miserably married.
I think that people are incredibly stressed because of the economy, which is putting stress on the marriage. People can't divorce if they wanted to, so it makes people feel trapped.
The best scenario is the parents stay together and you live happily ever after.
But even if that's not possible, and Jane says she's living proof of that, the formerly happy couple managed to remain civil.
In my mind, he's an ex. You know, divorce is a legal term. So in our hearts, we're divorced. According to the courts, we're not.
So just what do you do? How do you get to a situation like this? Here to discuss couples who split up but stay married, Dr. Robbie Ludwig, a psychotherapist and contributor to Care.com, and Judge Michelle Lowrance, who's author of The Good Karma Divorce, which of course I would think everyone hopes for, some good karma in their divorce. Good to have you both with us. Or everywhere, exactly. I want to start with you, Judge Michelle. Why is it that more and more couples these days are sort of staying married, but I guess we're calling them undivorced?
If there was one main reason, it would be driven by the economy. And people don't want to pay the lawyer's fees. Because if you have a nest egg and you've accumulated it, you can't be sure anymore you're going to be able to replenish it. And the economy is depleted. I mean, the real estate is down.
Right.
Who wants to sell at the very bottom of the market? You put your life savings into this.
But legally, there could be some ramifications, because if you're still married, you still have these assets in common. You know, this is the person who's your next of kin. This is the person who could deal with those medical issues if you're not able to. So are there some things you should put in place legally in this situation, even if it's not a divorce?
You should put them in place. The risks are you could be responsible for their debts. Your pension could accrue to their benefit. Their children might misinterpret what's really going on. If they are in charge of your health care, which they would be, if it's a really hostile situation, you don't want them to be in charge of pulling the plug on you.
No, we don't.
Pull the plug, yeah.
So those are all the things you have to think about.
There's all the things. That's why we're seeing this resurge of this thing called post-nuptial agreements.
And so then you put those things in place afterwards, but still stay married. How do you know nowadays whether or not it is time, Robbie, to give up on this marriage, to say goodbye?
And I think that's very difficult to know, because we don't really know what a healthy relationship is in a way. But I think you need to at least work on your problems. You know, have you really addressed the issue with a professional? Are you getting out impulsively? It is very hard to feel loving when you're enraged with your partner. So some people make a decision before they've actually worked through the problem.
So you say there are 3 important questions you can ask as yourselves and as a couple.
Have I worked through my problems? Did I see a professional, worked with clergy, etc.? Do I respect my partner? Because I think the loving feeling sometimes can be stronger sometimes and less so at others. That's really normal. There are cycles to relationships. Right. But if you don't respect your partner, there's no way you can love them. And finally, what will my life look like in 5 years after I leave this relationship? Will it be better? How will I feel about remarriage? What will my family look like? Can I tolerate that?
So all things to take into account. A lot of people, you mentioned too, the financial aspects of this, especially in today's economy. Going through with a divorce, especially if there's a custody agreement involved, can be incredibly expensive, even tens of thousands of dollars to deal with that when it comes to the children. Is that a reason, though, to stay married?
It's not a reason to stay married to avoid legal fees in and of itself. It may be a reason to try and mediate your case or do collaborative law or work on some agreements with good, intelligent lawyers. It may be a reason to not throw a hand grenade in the middle of your marriage.
But I also think, too, that a lot of people say it's due to finances, and in some ways they just emotionally are not ready to do it.
Well, people also say it's due to kids. And is it ever the right idea for the children,
See,
for
I
their
also don't
well-being?
buy that either. I also think people...
Is that a reason to stay together?
No, I think if you stay together for the kids, then figure out how to be happy, you know, in your marriage. But also you have to think about what role models are you setting, what kind of example are you setting about marriage to your kids? Do you really want to show that marriage about living separate lives and in separate bedrooms?
A lot of things to take into account. It's fascinating to me, this whole new demographic, so I have a feeling we'll be talking about it more in the future. Good to have both of you with us.
Thank you very much.